Why do some black people dislike pork? The disturbing truth behind the swine taboo. Today we here at Scope News will be talking about something that is very controversial. We will look at the disturbing truth behind the dislike of pork from within the black community. For some people, they love some good old smoked barbecue ribs at the family cookout or bacon and eggs for breakfast. But for some, the dislike of pork goes way deeper and even further back than some could even imagine. Picture this. It's the mid-1800s, deep in the American South. The plantation dining hall glows with candlelight as the white plantation owner's family slices into a honey-baked ham glazed with molasses. Behind the kitchen, out by the smokehouse, a cast iron pot boils with pig intestines, feet, and fat. That pot isn't for the guests, it's for the enslaved. For many black Americans, pork is more than just food. It's a symbol, a memory, a wound. Some embrace it as part of soul food tradition. Others reject it outright, refusing to touch swine of any kind. But beneath all of that lies a haunting historical truth. Pork was never a choice. It was a punishment, a control tactic, a diet rooted in slavery, survival, and centuries of systemic dehumanization. The idea that black people don't eat pork has become part of modern cultural language.
I don't eat pork. I don't eat pork.
But few truly understand where that aversion came from, or why it still lingers. The answer lies in the brutality of the slave diet, and the way pig meat became both a tool of oppression and a lingering symbol of resistance. During slavery, food was rationed, never chosen. Enslaved Africans were typically given weekly supplies of cornmeal, molasses, lard, and the cast-off parts of slaughtered pigs. These were the ears, tails, intestines, snouts, fat back, neck bones, what was known as offal. The masters kept the tenderloin, ribs, and hams for themselves. The scraps were boiled and fried by the enslaved, not because they wanted to, but because they had no other option. That's how dishes like chitlins and hog maws came to be. Not from joy, but from necessity. It was survival food. And that survival left a bitter taste. Even after emancipation, pork remained the cheapest and most available meat in many southern towns. It followed the newly freed into the Reconstruction era and beyond, especially as jobs were scarce and wages low. During that time, what little meat black families could afford often came from the same discarded cuts such as salted pork fat, pig's feet, and smoked jowls, to name a few. These ingredients became the building blocks of soul food, but they also became a painful reminder of everything that had been stolen: dignity, choice, nourishment. And so the trauma traveled through generations, through family stories told in kitchens and dining rooms. Children were raised with warnings about swine, not just for health reasons, but because of what it symbolized. At Sunday dinners or cookouts, you might still hear an elder say, "I don't eat swine." And behind that sentence is a legacy of forced diets, scraps, and survival. In the 20th century, religion gave that protest structure. The Nation of Islam was one of the most vocal groups condemning pork, calling it the pig, the poison animal. Elijah Muhammad's How to Eat to Live described swine as a filthy creation, saying it was not just unhealthy, but spiritually harmful. The message spread. If black people wanted to be free, clean, and strong, they had to stop eating what their oppressors had used to keep them weak. Other religious groups joined in. Hebrew Israelites, some black Christian sects, and Seventh-day Adventists also pointed to biblical passages in Leviticus that classified pork as unclean. Rejecting pig meat became more than just health conscious. It was seen as soul conscious. It was tied to reclaiming self-worth, bodily autonomy, and cultural pride. But even outside religion, the discomfort with pork remained. For many, it wasn't about scripture or even taste. It was about memory. The emotional and psychological impact of being fed the worst parts of the animal while others dined on the best. The knowledge that pigs were raised and butchered by enslaved labor, and that white-owned farms and factories profited from every step of the process. The pork industry exploded in cities like Cincinnati, known as Porkopolis, where enslaved and later exploited black workers processed thousands of hogs while remaining stuck in poverty. Black labor built the wealth, but rarely tasted the reward. And so when someone today says, "I don't eat swine," it might sound simple, but it's rarely that shallow. It can be a whisper of generational pain, a personal revolt against a system that once dictated every bite, a refusal to let trauma become tradition. Some black people still eat pork and honor the ingenuity their ancestors used to transform scraps into nourishment. Others say no, reclaiming their power by breaking the cycle. Both responses are valid, and both are rooted in the same buried truth. This isn't just about food, it's about memory, it's about survival. And it's about a pig that was never just a pig, but a symbol of what was taken, what was forced, and what can finally be reclaimed. So when an elder says, "I don't eat swine," it isn't just about diet, it's about memory, survival, and resistance. That simple phrase carries the weight of generations who were denied choice, dignity, and even full plates. It reflects a quiet defiance passed down from ancestors who were forced to eat the discarded scraps of a system built on cruelty. For some, the rejection of pork is a health decision. For others, it's spiritual. But for many, it's an unspoken reminder of what their grandparents and great-grandparents endured. Boiling pig guts behind the kitchen while the white plantation owner's family dined on glazed ham and smoked ribs. The legacy of swine is tangled in pain and perseverance, and the act of saying no to it becomes a personal expression of control, pride, and healing. Whether embraced as a cultural tradition or refused as a form of protest, pork remains one of the most complex and symbolic foods in Black history. Because in a world where so much was taken, the power to say, "I don't eat that," can feel like reclaiming something that was once lost. Scope News tells the truth. Here are the facts. This report draws from historical research published by the Southern Foodways Alliance, PBS's The Slavery Diet, and the National Museum of African American History and Culture's work on enslaved foodways. Additional insights come from Elijah Muhammad's How to Eat to Live, 1967, slave narratives housed at the Library of Congress, and testimonies passed down through Black American oral history. Legal disclaimer. This video is intended for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes. It includes verified historical sources, cultural commentary, and public research, but may reference disturbing content involving slavery, racism, and systemic abuse. Viewer discretion is advised. Scope News endeavors to reflect history truthfully and with respect, acknowledging the ongoing emotional and cultural impact of the issues discussed. Thank you so much for watching Scope News. Please consider subscribing to the channel for more history.